The Wyoming sunset bled crimson across the horizon, painting the land in shades of dried blood and dying embers. The stagecoach vanished into that red distance, its wheels carving long scars in the dirt road until it became nothing more than a dark smudge swallowed by the fading light. Kaya Redhawk stood alone at the Cottonwood Way station, dust settling on her worn moccasins, the wind tugging at her single braid of raven black hair. She was 25 years old, caught between two worlds that wanted no part of her. Half Apache from her mother's blood, half white from a father she had never known. The driver's last words still hung in the air like poison. No room for half-breeds. She had not answered him. She had learned long ago that words meant nothing to men whose hearts were already closed. Instead, she had simply watched the coach disappear, her fingers tightening around the letter in her hand. The paper was soft from being read 100 times, its edges worn smooth by hope and desperation. To Miss Kaya Redhawk, you are hereby accepted to the position of teacher for the children of Bitter Creek. Room and board provided. Those words had carried her across 3 territories. They had given her reason to leave behind her mother's grave among the red cliffs of Arizona, to walk away from the only land she had ever known. Now those same words felt fragile as ash, ready to crumble at the slightest breath. The way station was nothing but a weathered wooden platform with a sagging roof and a faded sign. No fire, no shelter worth the name. 15 miles of darkness stood between her and Bitter Creek. She would not make it on foot, not tonight. The temperature dropped fast as the sun vanished. Kaya pulled her wool shawl tight and knelt beside her 2 small deerskin bags. Her fingers found the oil lamp, then the silver pendant that had belonged to her mother. An eagle with spread wings, etched with delicate Apache patterns. She pressed the cool metal to her lips and whispered words her mother had taught her long ago. The eagle flies highest when the storm is fiercest. Her mother had also taught her to shoot a rifle before she turned 10, to ride a horse before she could walk, to survive in a world that would show her no mercy. Running Deer had been a woman of 2 worlds, rejected by both, and she had raised her daughter to be stronger than the hatred that surrounded them. The match sputtered before catching. Warm light painted her face as she settled against the wooden post. There was nothing to do now but wait for morning. Then came the sound that made her blood freeze. A howl rose from beyond the nearest ridge, long and mournful. Then another answered from a different direction. Then a third. Wolves. Kaya's hand moved to the knife at her belt, a small blade meant for cutting rope, not fighting predators. She rose slowly, eyes scanning the darkness. The howls grew closer. She heard them now, soft padding of paws on earth, rustle of bodies through dry grass. Her lamp was a beacon drawing them in. The first pair of eyes appeared at the edge of the light, yellow, gleaming, hungry. Then another pair, and
You're shaking. Cold or fear?
Neither.
I'm deciding whether to trust you.
Smart. Trust should be earned.
Then keep driving.
another. 5 wolves circled slowly. The alpha, a massive gray beast with a scarred muzzle, stepped forward and bared its teeth. Kaya did not scream. She did not run. She stood her ground because there was nowhere to run, and because her mother had raised her to face death with dignity. The alpha crouched for the spring. A rifle shot split the night. The wolf collapsed mid-leap, a dark hole in its skull. The pack scattered into darkness, yelping with fear. From the direction of the road came wagon wheels and hooves. A lantern swung closer. A man's voice called out, low and calm. "You hurt?" Kaya could not speak. She watched the wagon emerge from shadow. 2 chestnut horses, a broad-shouldered man with a dust-colored hat, Winchester rifle across his lap. Colton Driscoll was 44 years old, though the hard years had carved deeper lines into his face than his age deserved. Gray threaded through his dark hair. His pale blue eyes carried weight that spoke of losses beyond counting. He had spent the day in Hayden's Crossing, 20 miles west, selling 30 head of cattle. Now he was riding home through the night because his empty ranch house felt less lonely when he was too tired to notice the silence. He had not expected to find a woman alone at Cottonwood Station. He certainly had not expected wolves. He climbed down slowly and stepped into the lamplight. His gaze moved from her face to the silver pendant at her throat, and understanding flickered in his eyes. Half Apache. Something shifted in his expression. Memory, perhaps, or old pain. During the war, he had served as a sharpshooter for the Union. After the war, he had fought Apache raiders who burned homesteads across the territory. He had watched friends die with arrows in their chests. But that was a different lifetime, before the fever came and took his wife Sarah and his 6-year-old son Thomas in the same terrible week. Before he buried them both in ground so hard he broke 3 shovels digging. After that, hatred seemed like too much effort. Wolves will come back, he said finally. They always return for what they think is theirs. Kaya found her voice. I can handle myself. His mouth twitched. Not with that knife. He walked back toward the wagon without waiting. At the edge of the light, he paused. Bitter Creek is 15 miles east. I am headed that way. You coming or not? Kaya hesitated. Every instinct warned her against trusting the stranger. But the wolves were still out there, and the night was growing colder. She gathered her bags and walked toward the wagon. His grip was firm but careful as he helped her up. He handed her a wool blanket that smelled of horse and wood smoke. Name is Colton Driscoll, he said, snapping the reins. Kaya Redhawk. He nodded once. Then silence fell between them, broken only by wagon wheels and wind. They traveled without speaking for nearly an hour. Kaya studied him when she thought he was not looking, the way he held the reins, the rifle within easy reach, old scars on his hands. You are the new teacher, he said eventually. How did you know? Small town. Word travels. The stagecoach left me behind. Colton made a sound without humor. There was room. Just not for someone who looks like you. You do not seem bothered by what I am. He was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice rough. I have fought Apache warriors, watched friends die, spent years carrying hate like a stone in my chest. He paused. Then fever
The fever took my wife and my son.
The same week. I'm so sorry.
Don't be sorry.
An apology can't change the ground where I buried them.
took my wife and son, buried them with my own hands. After that, I stopped having energy to hate anyone. Kaya did not respond. There was nothing to say to grief like that. Near midnight, Colton pulled the horses to a halt. Riders ahead, he said quietly, hand moving to his rifle. 3 men on horseback blocked the road. Lanterns cast harsh shadows across their faces. The man in front was lean and hard, 40 years old with a patchy beard and glittering eyes. Virgil Dunn had lost his younger brother to an Apache raid 7 years ago. The hate had never left him. Colton Driscoll, he said, what do we have here? His eyes crawled over Kaya with undisguised contempt. Step aside, Virgil, Colton said flatly. Virgil laughed. You bringing a half-breed into our town? My brother died with Apache arrows in his back. She is the new school teacher. Papers from the mayor. I do not care if she has papers from God himself. Virgil's hand dropped to his pistol. The 2 men behind him tensed. Silence stretched. Wind whispered through grass. Colton spoke softly. You know what I did during the war, Virgil? You know how many men I dropped at 600 yards. Ask yourself if your hatred is worth dying for tonight. The moment balanced on a knife edge. Then Virgil spat and yanked his horse aside. This is not over, Driscoll. Colton drove past without responding. Who was that? Kaya asked when the riders had vanished. Virgil Dunn. Lost his brother to Apache raiders. Been carrying that hate ever since. He has a boy, though, 12 years old. Name is Emmett. Good kid. Kaya filed that away. A boy named Emmett. They reached Bitter Creek as gray dawn crept over the horizon. The town was small. General store, saloon, blacksmith, church with a crooked steeple. At the end of the main street, a two-story house with a lamp burning in the window. Colton stopped at the house and helped Kaya down. Edna Pritchard's boarding house, he said. She's a hard woman but fair. Her husband died 2 years back. Accident, they said. I never believed it. He climbed the porch steps and knocked. The door opened to reveal a woman in her 60s, gray hair pinned under a lace cap, sharp eyes and a weathered face. Edna Pritchard had been running this boarding house for 30 years, and she had seen every kind of person the frontier could produce. Her gaze moved from Colton to Kaya, lingering on the younger woman's features. Kaya braced for rejection. Instead, Edna straightened her spine. This house knows kindness before color, she said firmly. Come in, child. Hot stew on the stove, and a warm bed waiting. Kaya stood frozen. No white person had ever spoken to her like that, as if she were simply a person deserving warmth. Thank you, she whispered. She crossed the threshold and for the first time since leaving Arizona, allowed herself to believe she might find a place to belong. The days that followed tested that belief. The schoolhouse stood at the edge of town, one room with a sagging porch and leaking roof. On Kaya's first morning, she found a word painted across the door in crude black letters. Savage. She stood there for a long moment. Then she fetched water and a brush and scrubbed until the wood was clean. Inside, she wrote 2 words on the blackboard. To learn is to live. Only 5 children came that first day, sons and daughters of the poorest families who could not afford to make political statements with their children's education. They were shy and uncertain. Kaya taught them letters. She told them stories her mother had whispered by firelight, tales of stars that were hunters chasing the moon, rivers that remembered every name spoken beside them. By afternoon, the fear in their eyes had faded. Small victory, but enough. Colton appeared the next morning with tools and lumber, said nothing, just climbed onto the roof and started patching leaks.
You think they'll try again?
Men like that don't stop. They just wait for you to blink.
Then I won't blink.
Good, because I'm not losing another person to fire.
When Kaya tried to thank him, he waved her away. Cannot teach children with rain dripping on their heads. He came every day after that, fixed shutters, delivered firewood, sometimes just sat on the porch whittling while she taught. One evening after class, a shadow appeared at the schoolhouse door. Kaya looked up to find a boy standing there, 12 years old, thin and nervous, with his father's sharp features but softer eyes. Emmett Dunn. You are Virgil's son, Kaya said carefully. The boy nodded, twisting his cap in his hands. Ma'am, I cannot read. Pa says books are useless. Says real men work with their hands, not their heads. But I want to learn. I want to know things. Kaya studied him for a long moment. This boy's father had pointed a gun at her, had called her half-breed with venom in his voice. But the boy was not his father. Not yet. Come back tomorrow night, she said. After dark. We will start with the alphabet. Emmett's face lit up like sunrise. The secret lessons continued for weeks. Every night after his father went to the saloon, Emmett slipped through shadows to the schoolhouse. Kaya taught him by candlelight, watching with quiet pride as letters became words and words became meaning. One night, Emmett read his first complete sentence aloud. The cat sat on the mat. His voice trembled with wonder. I did it, he breathed. I actually read it. Kaya smiled. That was just the beginning. Soon you will read books, stories, anything you want. Emmett's eyes glistened. Thank you, Miss Kaya. Thank you. He became her secret ambassador, told other children that the Apache teacher was not scary at all, that she told the best stories about eagles and stars. Slowly more children came, 8, then 12. But progress always invites resistance. One October evening, rain hammered against the schoolhouse windows. Lightning turned the sky white. Thunder shook the walls. Kaya was preparing to leave when the door opened. Colton stood there, water streaming from his hat. Storm is too bad to ride through, he said. Mind if I wait it out? She nodded and he settled by the potbelly stove. For a long time they listened to rain and thunder. Then Colton spoke. My wife's name was Sarah. My son was Thomas. He had her smile and my stubborn streak. He was 6 when the fever took him. Kaya watched firelight play across his weathered face. My mother was running deer, she replied. She tried to build peace between her people and the settlers. Both sides rejected her, called her traitor. She died alone, with only me to hold her hand. The world is not kind to those who stand between, Colton said quietly. No, it is not. Their eyes met across the flickering light. Perhaps that's why we understand each other, she added softly. Colton did not respond, but something in his expression shifted, ice beginning to thaw. Before she knew what she was saying, Kaya found herself talking about her mother's other lessons. She taught me to shoot before I turned 10, Kaya said a woman alone in this world needed to protect herself. I can put a bullet through a playing card at 50 yards. Colton's eyebrows rose slightly. That's so? My mother survived 30 years between 2 worlds. She made sure I would survive too. He nodded slowly, something like respect entering his eyes. Good, he said simply. You might need that skill before this is over.
I'm not good at asking for help.
I noticed.
Then stay. Not as a guest, as someone who rides beside me.
All right. But you learn to say it out loud next time.
The storm passed, but another was brewing. Through Emmett's innocent chatter, Kaya learned things. The boy talked about conversations he overheard between a father and Mayor Cornelius Whitmore. Whitmore was 55, silver-haired, smooth as oil, the kind of man who smiled while sliding a knife between your ribs. He talked about the railroad, Emmett said one night. Something about buying land cheap and selling it expensive. Pa seemed nervous. Kaya filed this away. Then came the night everything burned. Emmett had developed a habit of sneaking to the schoolhouse after dark. His father thought he was asleep, but the boy would climb out his window and run through the shadows to practice his reading. That particular night, he was copying letters by candlelight when he heard voices outside. Men's voices, rough, low, planning something. He crept to the window and peeked out. 2 men stood in the darkness. One carried a torch. The other had a can of kerosene. Emmett recognized one of them. Scarred hand, missing finger, one of Whitmore's men. Before he could move, they doused the walls with kerosene. The torch touched wood, and fire exploded upward. Emmett screamed. The men heard him. One rushed to the door and jammed a board across it, trapping the boy inside. Then they ran. Kaya smelled smoke before she saw flames. She threw off her blankets and ran into the street. The schoolhouse was burning, orange fire clawing at the black sky, sparks swirling upward. Through the roar and crackle, she heard screaming, a child's voice. Emmett! She ran. Colton was already there, his face grim in the firelight. He kicked the door once, twice. The board splintered. Smoke billowed out thick and choking. Stay here, he commanded. He plunged into the inferno. Seconds stretched into eternities. Kaya stood at the threshold, heat searing her face, watching flames devour everything she had built. Then Colton emerged. Emmett hung limp in his arms. Both were blackened with soot, coughing violently. They collapsed onto the cold ground as the roof caved in behind them. Emmett was alive, burned and shaken, but alive. Then Virgil Dunn shoved through the gathering crowd, face twisted with rage. What happened? What did you do to my son? Emmett coughed, struggled to speak. Pa, it was not her. She saved me. 2 men. They locked me in. Set the fire. Virgil's face went pale. From the crowd, a smooth voice cut through. Clearly, this tragedy proves what I have been saying. The Apache woman has brought chaos to our town. Perhaps we should reconsider allowing her among us. Mayor Cornelius Whitmore stepped forward, silver hair gleaming, expression full of practiced concern. But Colton Driscoll rose to his feet. He was burned and bleeding, swaying with exhaustion, but his voice rang clear. 2 men set this fire, tried to kill a child, and I have seen them before. Working for you, Whitmore. The mayor's face went rigid. Dangerous accusation, Driscoll. Colton reached into his coat and pulled out singed papers. From Edna Pritchard, her husband collected these before his convenient accident. Land deals, forged signatures, letters to Union Pacific, all signed by you. Edna stepped forward, face set with grim determination. My husband discovered Whitmore buying land for pennies, selling to the railroad for dollars. Anyone who refused had accidents, fires, murders dressed up as Indian raids. The crowd stirred, murmuring. Whitmore's mask cracked. Lies, he spat. Lies from a widow and a half-breed sympathizer. His hand moved toward his pistol. He was too slow. Colton's Colt cleared leather in one fluid motion, barrel leveled at Whitmore's chest. Go ahead, he said quietly. Give me a reason. Whitmore's hired guns appeared at the crowd's edge. 3 of them, hands on weapons, spreading out. The moment balanced on a razor. A shot cracked the silence. One hired gun crumpled, clutching his shoulder. Colton fired twice, dropping a second man. Kaya grabbed the fallen gunman's rifle, swung it around, and put a bullet through the third man's leg before he could aim. Her mother's training had not failed her. Whitmore, seeing his protection fall, yanked his pistol free and aimed at Kaya's back. A 4th shot thundered through the chaos. Whitmore staggered, red bloom spreading across his chest. Behind him, Virgil Dunn stood with his revolver smoking. You tried to kill my son, Virgil said flatly. I might hate Apache, but I hate child killers more. Whitmore collapsed to his knees. The railroad will still come, he gasped. Cannot stop progress. Colton looked down at him. Progress built on blood is not progress, just murder with a fancier name. Whitmore's eyes glazed. He fell face first into the dust. Silence settled over Bitter Creek like snowfall. 3 weeks later, the new schoolhouse stood proud against the Wyoming sky. The town built it together. Every family contributed lumber or labor. Larger than before, with proper roof and glass windows and a cast iron stove against the cold. 18 children sat at new desks. Among them, 2 young Apache children whose mother had walked 5 miles to bring them. Emmett Dunn sat in the back row, reading aloud from a book of frontier stories. His voice was steady and sure. No more stumbling over letters, no more hiding in shadows. Outside the window, Virgil stood watching. His weathered face was unreadable. When Emmett finished reading, Virgil nodded once. Then he turned and walked away. Not forgiveness, not friendship, but acceptance. A crack in the wall of hatred, letting in light. After the children left, Kaya walked outside. Colton waited by the fence with 2 saddled horses. Going somewhere, she asked. He shrugged. Ranch needs work. Winter coming. Could use a hand on weekends. I am a teacher, not a farmhand. Never said you were. He met her eyes and she saw something soft there, something almost vulnerable. But I have enough empty rooms and silence to drive a man mad. Maybe company would not be the worst thing. She touched the silver eagle at her throat. Her mother's voice whispered in her memory. The eagle flies highest when the storm is fiercest. You are terrible at asking for help, she said. His mouth twitched. I am terrible at many things. But I am learning. She walked down the steps and took the reins. They rode out as the sun sank toward western hills, painting the prairie in gold and crimson. Horses moved side by side, shadows stretching long across red earth. Behind them, lights of Bitter Creek flickered on like stars coming to life. Kaya spoke softly. Storm seems to be passing. Colton nodded. Seems like it. She looked at the vast horizon before them. No, she said. Storms never really end out here. But maybe that is not the point. What is the point then? She smiled. First real smile since arriving in this wild, broken, beautiful place, finding someone to weather them with. They rode into gathering dusk, two souls forged in fire and loss, finding in each other something neither had dared hope for. Behind them, the schoolhouse stood solid against darkening sky, beacon of light at the edge of wilderness, and somewhere in the distance a train whistle echoed across the plains. But in Bitter Creek, progress would come on different terms now, built not on blood and deception, but on harder foundation of justice and second chances. And sometimes, in the spaces between storms, an eagle finds another eagle flying beside it.
The story of the two 5-year-old mixed-race woman and the 4-year-old man who survived their loss reminds us of a very clear lesson. Prejudice can kill hope, but courage and kindness can save a community. When she was abandoned at a bus stop simply because of her different skin color, we see the cruelty of judgments that frame people by their background. Yet she did not give up. She chose to stand tall in the cold night, chose education and knowledge as a path to survival, and chose to face instead of running away. The first lesson is, don't let others decide your worth. Despite being insulted and isolated, she persevered, building things little by little, wiping away the insults, opening classes, telling stories, teaching literacy, and sowing seeds of hope for the future. The second lesson is, change doesn't come from words or slogans, but from persistent daily actions. The man once harbored hatred in his heart, but the pain of losing his wife and children made him understand that hatred only exhausts people. He didn't become better with an apology, but by quietly repairing the school roof, carrying firewood, standing guard at the gate, and stepping up to defend what was right. This teaches us that healing isn't about forgetting the past, but about choosing to live kindly even when the past was cruel. The story also reveals a powerful truth. A child can break the cycle of hatred. The 1-2-year-old boys yearning to learn to read softened the hearts of the entire town, forcing adults to reflect on themselves. When the school was burned down, the community faced a choice: continue to blame or dare to confront the manipulator, and they chose justice. The final lesson is, true progress isn't built on fear and violence, but on fairness, knowledge, and second chances. Amidst the never-ending storms of the Wild West, the most valuable thing isn't winning against someone, but finding someone willing to weather the storm with you.